If you are looking at the situation in the Middle East right now, what you are seeing is not a president managing a war. What you are seeing is a president losing control of one. Donald Trump is now publicly telling the American people to prepare for a lot of death. Those are his words. He is saying the war could last 4 to 5 weeks. He is saying he wants to apply the Venezuela model to Iran. And he is claiming to be in productive discussions with Iran's top leadership, a claim that Iran's chief negotiator just publicly called a delusional fantasy. Meanwhile, an American F-15 Strike Eagle has crashed over Kuwait due to friendly fire. Iranian ballistic missiles are penetrating Israel's Iron Dome. U.S. embassies across the region are under siege. Pro-Iranian militias have destroyed an American ammunition factory in Erbil. And Dow futures dropped 500 points overnight, while crude oil spiked more than 7% past $72 a barrel. This does not look like a mission progressing toward victory. It looks like the architecture of a catastrophe assembling itself in real time. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what just happened, why Iran's top negotiator just dismantled Trump's narrative on social media, and why the economic and military consequences of this war are about to land directly in your life. Imagine you are in a business negotiation. A deal is on the table. Your counterpart is ready to sign. And then instead of closing, you flip the table, punch the other party in the face, and then call a reporter to say the conversation is going really well. How long before everyone in the room realizes you are not a deal maker, but a wrecking ball with a press strategy? Hold that thought, because that is precisely what the Trump administration just did with Iran. A deal was reportedly within reach. The mediator from Oman had indicated a framework was in place, and instead of closing, the administration launched an invasion and is now publicly claiming the people they are bombing are having productive discussions. Drop your answer in the comments. Is this negotiation, or is this psychosis dressed up in diplomatic language? Let us rewind the clock. Before the missiles launched, there was a man named Ali Larijani. He is the secretary of Iran's National Security Council and was the chief negotiator in talks with the United States, mediated through Oman's foreign minister. On February 12, 2026, just 3 weeks before the invasion, Larijani appeared on camera and described exactly what was happening. He said Iran's negotiations were exclusively with the United States. He said Israel had inserted itself into the process with the intent of undermining and sabotaging those negotiations. He said Israel's strategy was to destabilize the region and that regional leaders should be aware. He named Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey as targets of Israeli maneuvering. That was the warning. That was the roadmap of what was about to go wrong. And nobody in Washington listened. Or more accurately, the people who listened were overruled by people who wanted this war. Now, Larijani has resurfaced, not as a negotiator, but as a wartime voice. And his message is unambiguous. Receipt number 1, the Larijani rebuttal. The Wall Street Journal reported that the United States was engaged in discussions with Larijani. Donald Trump went further, publicly claiming these conversations were pretty productive. Larijani responded on social media with a statement that should be studied in every foreign policy classroom in the country. He said Trump plunged the region into chaos with his delusional fantasies and now fears more American troop casualties. He said Trump turned his self-made America First slogan into Israel First and sacrificed American soldiers for Israel's power-hungry ambitions. He said with new fabrications, Trump is once again imposing the cost of assassinating his own character on American soldiers and families. And he closed with this. The Iranian nation is defending itself. The armed forces of Iran did not initiate this aggression. That is not the language of a government in productive discussions. That is the language of a government that has decided the time for talking is over. Trump told America he was negotiating. Iran told the world he was lying. And the gap between those two realities is now filled with missile strikes and body bags. Receipt number 2. The friendly fire crash and the military unraveling. An American F-15E Strike Eagle crashed over Kuwait this morning due to a friendly fire incident. Both the pilot and the weapons systems officer appear to have survived, found by Kuwaiti locals and transferred to local authorities. That image alone, an American fighter jet brought down not by the enemy, but by its own side, crashing into Allied territory, is a metaphor so precise it barely needs commentary. But the F-15 is not an isolated incident. It is a symptom. Iran continues launching retaliatory strikes across the entire region. More strikes on Dubai, more on Doha, more on Manama, the capital of Bahrain, more across Israel, where Iranian ballistic missiles have penetrated the Iron Dome. In Erbil, Iraq, drones from a pro-Iranian militia destroyed an American ammunition factory. United States embassies throughout the region are being stormed, primarily by pro-Ayatollah Shiite militia groups. Iran has activated its entire proxy network, the one every intelligence analyst said would activate, the one Trump assumed would not matter. Outside the Green Zone in Baghdad, the scenes are chaotic. In Jerusalem, footage from last night shows an Iranian missile scoring a direct hit. The operational picture is not one of American dominance. It is one of overextension, retaliation, and a theater commander trying to fight on 6 fronts simultaneously with a civilian leadership that has no coherent strategy. Receipt number 3, the geopolitical sellout. While American service members are dying in the Middle East, here is what is happening in Asia. The New York Times reported that the Trump administration is officially delaying $13 billion in congressionally approved arms sales to Taiwan. The reason? Trump wants to ensure a smooth summit with Xi Jinping in April. The war in Iran has also diverted military resources away from the Pacific. Let me make sure you understand the full picture. Xi Jinping told Donald Trump he could not provide weapons to Taiwan, could not let Taiwan's president use U.S. airspace, could not support Taiwan's defense. And Trump complied every single time. He banned Taiwan's president from U.S. airspace en route to Central America last year. And now he has frozen $13 billion in military aid that Congress already approved. This is the same man who tells you he is the toughest president in American history. He is so tough that he does whatever Xi Jinping tells him to do and then starts a war in the Middle East to prove his strength. The strongman routine is for domestic consumption. Internationally, every major adversary has taken his measure and found him manageable. China is protecting Iran. Russia is watching with satisfaction. And the United States is burning through munitions, credibility, and lives in a war that is making every strategic competitor stronger. If this story is connecting dots you have not seen assembled anywhere else, you are already ahead of most people watching this unfold. Hit subscribe right now. We are pushing toward 20K subscribers, and this situation is accelerating faster than any single outlet can track. When the next development breaks, and it will, you need to be here. Here is what most analysts are not framing clearly enough. There are 2 models of power on display right now, and they could not be more different. Iran, whatever you think of its government, has responded to the assassination of its supreme leader with institutional continuity, coordinated military retaliation across multiple theaters, activation of proxy networks from Iraq to Lebanon to Yemen, and a public messaging strategy that is disciplined and consistent. Larijani's statement was not ranting. It was precise, targeted, and designed to split American public opinion from American policy. Now look at the Trump side. The president says the war will last 4 to 5 weeks, but started with a plan for 4 to 5 days. He claims productive negotiations with a counterpart who publicly says no negotiations are happening. He says this will be like Venezuela, a country where his regime change effort also failed. His vice president cannot articulate consistent war aims. His defense secretary insists this will not become protracted while the casualty count climbs daily. Lindsey Graham is on television calling for simultaneous war with Cuba and an assault on Hezbollah, screaming about finishing off bastards while American families bury their children. And the president himself, a 5-time draft dodger who faked bone spurs to avoid service, stands at a podium and tells the nation that more Americans will die, and that is just the way it is. One side built redundancy into every layer of its command structure. The other side built a messaging strategy around a man who posts about the White House Correspondents' Dinner while his soldiers are killed. That asymmetry is not survivable over a multi-week conflict. So what does this actually mean for you? If you drive a car, fill a gas tank, heat a home, or buy anything that moves by truck or ship, you are about to feel this war in your wallet. Crude oil has jumped more than 7% overnight, past $72 a barrel. And if the Strait of Hormuz disruption continues, analysts suggest that number could climb dramatically. Dow futures dropped 500 points heading into this morning. That is your retirement account, your 401k, your savings. If you have family in the military, the president has told you to expect many more deaths and injuries. If you have family in the Middle East, the State Department has already told you they are on their own. And if you care about Taiwan, about the Pacific, about the actual strategic threat that most defense experts identify as the priority of this century, the resources that should be going to that theater are now being expended in a war that has no defined objective, no congressional authorization, and no exit strategy. Once military resources are diverted, once diplomatic credibility is spent, once allies learn they cannot count on you, those losses do not reverse when the politics change. They become the new baseline. Where does this go from here? I see 3 paths. Scenario 1 is a managed off-ramp. Back-channel communication, possibly through Oman or China, produces some form of ceasefire framework. Both sides save face. Trump claims he destroyed Iran's nuclear infrastructure. Iran claims it defended itself and inflicted historic costs. The fighting stops, but the structural damage is permanent. Gulf allies have been bombed. Taiwan has been abandoned. The proxy networks are activated and do not simply deactivate. The cracks are set in concrete. Scenario 2 is regional realignment. Gulf states, now targets in a war they did not ask for, accelerate their pivot toward China and alternative security arrangements. Iran's proxy network, having demonstrated its reach, becomes a permanent feature of regional power dynamics rather than a latent threat. France has already refused to commit offensive military support. Other NATO allies watch and draw conclusions. The United States remains militarily powerful, but strategically isolated in a region that is quietly building a new architecture without Washington at the center. Once those partnerships form, they do not dissolve because an American election produces a new president. The relationships follow the new routes, and they do not come back. Scenario 3 is the full escalation spiral. This is the one that no one in Washington wants to name, but everyone in the intelligence community is preparing for. Iran continues retaliating. Trump, unable to accept a stalemate and surrounded by voices like Lindsey Graham demanding simultaneous wars with Cuba and Hezbollah, escalates further. Ground troops are deployed, despite every promise to the contrary. China increases support to Iran. Russia exploits the distraction. The conflict metastasizes from a regional war into a global crisis with nuclear undertones. And at the center of every decision is a man who faked bone spurs, who posts about dinner invitations while soldiers die, and who tells a grieving nation that death is just the way it is. Here is what I need you to understand. Whatever happens next, the framework that existed before this war is gone. The assumption that the United States could launch a preemptive strike, claim productive negotiations while the other side publicly denies them, abandon $13 billion in Taiwan defense commitments to please China, and still be taken seriously as the guarantor of global order, that assumption has been tested and it has shattered. Ali Larijani saw this coming 3 weeks ago. He said on camera that Israel was sabotaging the negotiations and that regional leaders should be aware. Nobody in Washington acted on that warning. Or rather, the people who wanted the war used it as an accelerant. Trump did not build a strategy